Like I started a video, a live video, and YouTube decides to like, new managing monitors can support your channel in even more ways. Okay, can you not tell me about it right now? Right as I start a live? Okay, anyways, hi. As usual, I am starting a little bit early, so I'm sorry about that. We can chat, for a couple minutes before we start about the actual book, though. Hi, Lori. I hope that people who have been following book club are able to join tonight, and if not, at least have an idea that we had to change it to Monday night. I kind of forgot. I even mentioned it in the last video that we were moving on the 15th campgrounds, and then I didn't realize that it was Wednesday until I got off of my video from last week. Hi, Stephen. And like that night was like, oh shit. I realized it was Wednesday, and I can't, on a moving day, I can't guarantee that I will have internet up and things set up and be able to come on and do a video if it's moving day. So unfortunately, I had to change it to today. So I'm sorry about that. Hopefully, the people who have been joining us for book club realized that, and I tried to post it when I could and stuff. So here we are today. Hi, Sydney. We are, let me tell you, let's see, first of all, what we're doing. I was going to bring our schedule out and I forgot. Tomorrow, not tomorrow. Today's Monday. Wednesday, when we move, Wednesday is the day that we are going to Uvalde. Jeff's phone died Saturday and our microwave died this morning. Oh, one of those things. It's not retrograde though, at least Mercury in retrograde, so maybe that'll be it. So this is the last opportunity. This is the smoky rutilated quartz that I am going to be leaving in Uvalde. So once we get a couple more people on, I want to send some group love into the stone, because I'm going to be leaving that at Uvalde on Wednesday. So Wednesday we go to Uvalde, and I'm going to visit some of the places there, the school and the memorial site and stuff like that. And leave the stone and do some Reiki healing on the area. And then we are going to stay in Walmart parking lot on Wednesday in Uvalde. For those of you that don't know much about RVing or anything, Walmart is like a savings grace for us when we are trying to travel and move, hundreds of miles in a couple days. We don't have to find a campground all the time. Walmart and a couple other places, Cracker Barrel, I think, is another one. There's a couple that allow us to park overnight to sleep. I mean, they don't have hookups or anything, but they allow you to park overnight and sleep without, you don't get in trouble. You don't have to pay for it or anything. So when we are traveling, it's nice to be able to stop, someplace to rest and not have to worry about where we're sleeping. So that is Wednesday. Thursday, we will be in New Mexico. Thursday, we drive to, I think it's called Deming, New Mexico. And we may do, I just found out that there is a cool mine to mine for thunder eggs in Deming, New Mexico. And we had found a free campground actually there before I even knew that there was a place to mine. So we might be staying there a couple days if we can find this mining place. And then, so that's Thursday night, definitely, maybe Friday. It depends on, what we find and stuff. And then by Saturday, Friday maybe, but by Saturday, we should be outside of Tucson, Arizona. Which is exciting. Yay, Tucson. Although I have to say, I am realizing now, I hope the gem show isn't going on. It's like the time for the gem show, and we did not make reservations yet. Shit. I gotta have Peter call. and make sure that we are able to stay because, ooh, it might be super busy right now. I didn't think about the Tucson Gem Show going on. Hi, Uncle Badger. Hi, Nadine. Yeah, I didn't even like connect it until I said it out loud. I think it's like right at the time that the Gem Show normally is. I don't know if we're going to be able to stay there. Shit. We'll have to figure it out. Damn it. I totally forgot about the Gem Show going on right now, which is kind of cool, except we have no money. You know, we're totally broke on the road here, but I would love to go, though. How cool would it be? I would just take pictures of the millions and billions of awesome gems. Okay, anyways. So, that's what's going on in the next couple days, anyways. Now that we have a few people on, if you would, what I want to do is focus on the stone that I'm going to be leaving at Uvalde. Uvalde is the place that the most recent school shooting with all of those children who died in that school while the police stood outside and did not enter, and the 2 teachers, as a matter of fact. I have been, for the last month or so, I have been putting Reiki energy, love, comfort into this stone to leave at Uvalde to help heal the land, and kind of reset. What I want to do is visit a lot of these places and try to heal as much as I can and comfort the land and obviously all those affected. But the spirit of a place sometimes hangs on to tragedy. And I really felt that when we went to Emmett Till, the place where they found Emmett Till, who was lynched in Mississippi. I mean, all these years later, it has been extremely stagnant, and it's such a poor area, and it just felt heavy. So I decided that that's what I'm going to do as we're traveling through these places is I'm putting love and energy into these stones and doing Reiki over the land and leaving them. So if everyone would focus on this stone for a moment. Take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Ready? Here we go. It ended yesterday. Yes. Thank you, Stephen. And focus on the stone. And I want you to just remember those children that were lost. There was children that were injured. Some severely injured, some only minor. The teachers and the families who were affected. The one teacher's husband then committed suicide days later. Just such an awful tragedy that we want to focus as much comfort and love energy into the stone as we can, which will then help Mother Gaia to heal the energy of that area. We know that they will never forget their loved ones, that the tragedy will never be over for that town, but we want to wrap our collective arms around them and just let them know that they're loved and that we are all sending them love and comfort and healing. Thank you. Perfect. So again, this will stay in Uvalde. I will find some place on the grounds that with the other one, I just found a place to set it and put it in the ground a little bit, and that was it. Okay, so on with the book club. Last time we were going to go through chapter 4, but chapter 3 was kind of a long chapter, and it took us quite a while to get through it. So we decided to really go through chapter 4 this week. And it's such a cool chapter, even though the chapter 4 was not super long, but it's such a neat chapter that I wanted to make sure we had the time to really go through it well, because it's such a neat, cool thing. In honor of going over this chapter, I brought with me today, this is my Atlantisite skull. Anybody have any idea why I would bring my Atlantisite skull tonight? Dun, dun, dun. He's very happy to be involved. Atlantisite is stickite, see the purple stickite, and serpentine. Atlantis, that's right. Atlantisite represents the people of Atlantis, the lost city of Atlantis. Have any of you started watching that show, Ancient Apocalypse? It's a good one on Netflix, and there's a lot of really interesting theories and the way they go through things, super interesting. So I do recommend going through that show if you see it. They were Atlanteans in past life. That's right. Okay, so let's get into it. Chapter 4 immediately starts with, we find out, I just lost all my notes. The wind is blowing and it's a little chilly out tonight. That as a result of her talk with Uther and her fight with Gorlois, Igraine has decided to swear off Gorlois' religion, Christianity. She says, I will pretend and I will, dutifully play the role that I'm supposed to play, but I'm not going to really try to be involved with this religion anymore because she just doesn't see the point. It's ridiculous. There, after the thing at the church and her talk with Uther and her fight with Gorlois, she's like, nope, I'm done with this shit. There is no more of that. I'm not putting myself into this kind of religion. I don't think the gods that I love and the goddess that I love would do things like this, and I don't understand their need to have a vengeful god. So she's like, nah, I'm done with that. Which I believe we went over last time, which is why this time I did it quick. The first dream Igraine has of Uther. So there's 2 dreams she has of Uther. The first dream she has of Uther is a very specific kind of dream, and I believe that Vivian kind of, I believe that the Merlin, that Taliesin, and Vivian kind of put into the Moonstone kind of a sexual energy. I'd been reading a little book about the Atlanteans and how they could have built the megaliths and had an influence. Yes. There's so much cool information about it. Let's get to the second dream. Okay. Oh, that's so cool. The first dream, though, I believe that Vivian and the Merlin kind of enchant the Moonstone so that Uther and Igraine kind of have a connection. That's okay. I love, that's a great subject that I love, so it's easy to squirrel me out on it. So they have kind of a sexual chemistry, right? So the first dream that she has is really purely kind of a sexual chemistry kind of dream, right? She lays down, she finds herself in the country of sleep. She found herself standing in the orchard where she had spoken with Uther, and where she dried his tears with her veil. Now in the dream, he seized the end of her veil and drew her close to him with it, laid his mouth to hers. There was a sweetness in the kiss. So they have like their first kiss in this dream. And she found herself giving up to his kiss, and she looks into his eyes and thinks, I've always been a child. I've never known until this moment what it was to be a woman, right? So she has this kind of super sexualized dream about Uther. And again, I think that's partly to strengthen the connection that they need to have with each other, right? In order for this prophecy to come true, they need to have a passion for each other. Of course, later we find out that's not going to be an issue, right? Okay. So number 3, what tells us that Igraine, even after that dream, Igraine has not yet accepted her fate? What tells us that? You guys remember? She goes to the markets. They talk about going to the market. She wakes up after this dream and she starts sobbing. She's crying. She's upset. She doesn't understand. She's not ready to give up on the relationship that she has fought for 4 years, that she didn't even want to be with, be in to begin with. She goes to the market. She tries to distract herself, all this stuff. That doesn't work. In the second week, her moon flux came. So she gets her period. She felt dismal and betrayed. Gorlois had not, after all, gotten on her the son he wanted. So she's not pregnant. And what happens? She cries. She's upset. She feels strapped to an old man. She doesn't, she's like, if only he could have got me pregnant, then maybe we could have just figured it out with Gorlois. Instead, she doesn't get pregnant. And she's upset about it. And she's been trying to figure out how to make it work with Gorlois, it took a long time for her to accept her fate, and then she accepted it, and now she has to switch everything around. And we know in those tower moments, even as we're hanging on to the last bit of rock before it crumbles off of the tower that we've built in our head, we're hanging on for dear life, Hi, Ember. It's okay. We want what we have planned. We've spent a lot of time in our head and in our lives planning for the future that we saw. So when it begins to crumble, we hang on for dear life to every stone before it falls, usually. And that's what she's doing. She's having her tower moment. She's not willing to give it up yet. She's in denial. She keeps going back and trying to figure out how it will happen with Gorlois. Hi, Kim. She's deathly hanging on for that last stone of the tower as it's falling. Please let me be pregnant, maybe with Gorlois' baby. And that doesn't happen, and she kind of loses it for a little bit. She throws a fit. She gets very upset. And then the Merlin visits, and she's sullen, and she's upset, and she's telling him, I can't, my life is over. I'm an old woman, the wife of an old man. He says, hush, you're weary, you're ill. You'll feel better when the moon changes again. It's best like this. It's okay. He said, looking sharply at her, and suddenly knew that he read her thoughts. It was as if he spoke directly to her mind, repeating what he had said to her at Tintagel. You will bear, Gorlois, no son. He's telling her, look, honey, this is not the way it's going to happen. I'm sorry. I know you had that in your head. That ain't happening. So you might as well learn to give it up, honey. And so what does the Merlin say he'll do to help cure Igraine? He sees that, remember that the Merlin, Taliesin, is her father. So he sees her biological father, yes, but spiritually, kind of, he looks after her, and he keeps an eye out for her. And he sees that she's upset. He sees that he gives her a dream. That's right. He sees that she's upset. He sees that she's not accepting what's supposed to happen yet. He doesn't like to see her that way. So he says, strokes her uncombed hair, sleep is the best medicine for your illness now, Igraine, and dreams are the true remedy for what ails you. I, who am master of dreams, will send one to cure you. He stretched his hand over her in a blessing and went away. So he's like, okay, I'm going to give you this dream, and then you should be fine after that. And he knows, as a spiritual leader, hi, Raven, he knows that eventually she's gonna figure it out, and she will do the acceptance thing, but it's gonna take a bit. It's gonna take some things. So Igraine has one last stand. She cries, sobs, tries not to fall asleep because she's like, shit, I know the Merlin is sending me a dream, so if I don't go to sleep, because, you know, our logic clearly kicks in at this point. We're hanging on to the crumbled stones of our tower that we're like, maybe if I just stack them a little bit, I'll be able to put it all back together nice enough that I could live in it for a while more because this is what I want. It's so hard to let go of the crumbled remains of our dreams and hopes and things that we want when that tower crumbles. So hard. And that's what Igraine does. She told herself that whatever came, she should remain a dutiful wife to this honorable man who had been kind to her. That brought back memory of the room where Vivian and the Merlin had shattered her security and all her peace. She felt tears surging up inside her, but she was trying to be quiet so she doesn't wake up Gorlois because she can't sleep. She can't sleep. She's like, I'm not going to sleep because I know Merlin's going to send me this fucking dream, and I don't want to dream. I want to hang on to what I want. This is what I want, damn it. And she kind of intuitively knows that if she falls asleep, he's going to send her this dream, and she then is going to have to give up what she's been hanging on to. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you are sitting in a rubble pile trying to stack the rocks carefully around you. Sometimes you just don't want to give up on it, right? It's super hard. And we all have been there. You know, we've all been at the point where we just are sitting in the middle of the rubble pile trying to stack it up around us. And you know, the house of cards thing, trying to make it so maybe it'll be okay if I just stack it the right way. It won't fall again, and I can just stay here because this is what's comfortable. This is what I'm used to. This is what I know. This is what I want because it's comfort. It's what's known, right? Okay, so finally, she finally falls asleep, right? And so this is a good example of an astral travel or a lucid dream. I tend to believe more that this is an astral travel. The reasoning is because she's exhausted. Her eyes hurt from crying and sobbing. She goes out to the other room so Gorlois can't hear her crying. But she still has to try to be quiet. And she sits there all night trying not to fall asleep, and she's exhausted, and she doesn't even realize, and all of a sudden she stands up. Let me read, because I am going to read a lot of this dream because it's super important and really interesting. She rose, walked silently across the room to the house door. In her present mood, she was not altogether surprised to look back and see that her body still sat, cloak-wrapped, before the fire. She did not trouble to unbolt the door of the room, nor later the great front door of the house, but slipped through them both like a wraith. So she gets up, she walks across the room, and is not super surprised to turn around and recognize that her body is there in a sleep, sitting up in a sleep kind of mode. She's like, oh, okay, this is a little bit different than what I'm used to. And so she realizes she's in a dream or in astral travel. And to further that point, they say she doesn't bother to open the door because she finds she can slip right through the door without turning that door handle, right? Because she's like a ghost. She's like a wraith. Which when you astral travel, and everybody does things a little bit different when they astral travel, so don't let me tell you how to astral travel. Many people, this is kind of the same thing they experience. It's very much like you see your body there. And it takes a while, I'll be honest with you, when we were talking about astral travel, it takes a while to not get, startled. When you first meditate long enough that you start feeling yourself, your spirit lift out of your body, usually the first thing that happens, I don't know how many it took for me. A lot, probably 10, 20 times. It startles you enough that you slip right back into your body because you're like, oh shit. You know, that it's like almost that feeling of falling when you fall asleep, that you suddenly realize that your hand is lifting and your arm is still there and you're like, oh shit, what the fuck is that? And it startles you enough that you kind of slip back in really quick. And so the first, however long it takes you, That's usually what will happen. And then suddenly you find that you're standing over your body, or you're standing outside the room looking in, or something like that. And a lot of people who astral travel report kind of that same kind of feeling. Okay, where are we? You guys with me still? Or am I not seeing? Okay, just making sure. I couldn't help but imagine Eeyore and his stick leaning too. Yes, right? I think sometimes my phone forgets to show me messages, so sorry. Okay, and yet, outside the courtyard of the house of Gorlaw's friend was gone, so she suddenly is not in the same place. She stood on a great plain where a ring of stones stood. Now, a ring of stones is very much, and hope to get past the startle impulse. Yes, and it takes a while, and you have to be very conscious about it. And eventually it'll happen. You just have to keep trying and keep trying to calm yourself and know that it's going to happen and that kind of stuff. What was I saying? Oh, the circle of stones. There's very many examples of a circle of stone all around the world. And very often it has to do, you find that people are treating it as a very spiritual place. So that is a connotation of a spiritual place. Where a ring of stones stood in a great circle, just touched by the rising light of dawn. No, that light was not the sun. It was a great fire to the west, so that the sky stood all on fire. So let me stop. I'm going to read one more paragraph, and then I'll stop, and I want to talk about Atlantis a little bit. To the west, where stood the lost lands of Lioness and Ease, and the great isle of Atlas, Almiosos, or Atlantis, the forgotten kingdom of the sea. There indeed had been a great fire, where the mountain had blown apart, and in a single night 100,000 men and women and little children had perished. Okay, so the first time that Atlantis had ever been spoken of, the lovelies, is Pluto. Pluto talked about it in one of his letters or something. He starts talking about the city of Atlantis. And it's, I want to say Thaddeus or Thaddeus or something like that. So Pluto was the first to bring up Atlantis. And unfortunately, it's such a long time ago that we don't know where Pluto got the information. So we don't know, like, did someone tell him this? Did he see Atlantis? Did he see Volcano Day in Pompeii, right? Sounds very similar, doesn't it? Did he know people that knew of Atlantis? We don't know. We don't. So there's so many different theories on Atlantis that I'm not going to be able to, different tellings of Ease, most are, yes, most, I know it. Most are abbreviated, yes. And same thing with Atlantis. There's so many different tellings of Atlantis. That I'm not going to go over all of the different tellings of Atlantis because there are many. But there are enough that I believe that there was an advanced civilization, probably more than one, long ago. And that we still have, there are things that come about. There are little signs, there are little things that happen that we cannot always explain that then point in that direction. It's funny, my son Frankie and I were talking about that this past weekend. Coincidentally, love that synchronicity kind of thing that starts happening, right? When you start researching a topic that you're supposed to be researching. Did I say Pluto? Seeing you write that, I'm like, oh my God, I think I just said Pluto. The version of Atlantis he heard from, I think, the Egyptians. Yes, and they said it was gone long before them. Frank and I were talking about the Egyptian pyramids, actually, and And again, I do love that show, the whatever I called it, the ancient, whatever it is. See, now my brain is like, I can't believe you just said Pluto. We were talking about the pyramids and how they believe now that the Egyptians didn't actually build the pyramids, that they came upon the pyramids. But like with Brazil, that could be a remnant of the original island. Yes. I was posting a lot of stuff on my Ancient Apocalypse. Thank you, Stephen. Squirrel. I was posting on my wall today some of the cool findings and stuff that, kind of tie into all this too. But we were talking about how the Egyptians, they think now that the Egyptians came upon the pyramids, that they were built not by them, but by a far more advanced civilization a long time before them. And that they came upon the pyramids and kind of guessed at what was supposed to be done in these pyramids, what the pyramids were for. And we were talking and kind of laughing about how funny it would be today. It would be like, some of us, if we were to leave the earth and leave behind everything that we have, and then, a billion years later, people came upon, our houses and picked something up and tried to guess what we used it for. Sometimes they might guess pretty close, and sometimes they might totally have it wrong. They might, look at, like, it reminds me of, remember Ariel in The Little Mermaid with the fork and running it through her hair? Sometimes they had no idea what it was for. They ended up decorating the pyramids, and they, drew on them and stuff, but they don't believe that they actually built the pyramids. So that's kind of along the same lines as this. The Sphinx is much older, yes, than the Egyptians. I think you're right about the pyramids and the European megaliths too. There are barrows and standing stones in New England too, yes. And there's one in, I think it's Massachusetts. There's one in, there's several in Arizona. I'd have to look. I started making a list of them because I kind of want to visit them in my travels, but ooh, come on, light. All right, come on, big mouth. I got to get through this. All right. Here we go. Okay, so they start to look at, she's standing there looking at the fires. And then a voice next to her says, "But the priests knew," said a voice at her side. "For the past 100 years, they have been building the star temple here on the plains so that they might not lose count of the tracking of the seasons or the coming of eclipses of the moon and the sun. These people here, they know nothing of such things, but they know we are wise priests and priestesses from over the sea, and they will build for us as they did before." And Danae, the Irish god of the dead, he turned up in a ship off the southeastern coast of Ireland, and the Irish were suspicious of them. Also, the term dead, yes, could be survivors of a dead civilization rather than of the soul. Yes, that's left in the body. Yes. There's so much, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, that's a great one to go down, because there's a lot of really cool information that you can find. There's, I was going to list some of the books, and my phone died and I had to charge it right before we came on. So he says that they'll build for us again. So there's a more advanced civilization, and then we, meaning, back then, we're not so advanced, but they had us building for them, right? Igraine looked up without surprise at the blue cloaked figure by her side, and although his face was very different, hold on, I need another lantern. That's a rabbit hole. Yes. No, but it's all right. I love you distracting, Thomas. It's okay. That's why I'm Mama Squirrel. Everybody expects me to be distracted. There we go. That's a little brighter. At the blue-cloaked figure by her side, and although his face was very different, and he wore a strange high headdress crowned with serpents, and golden serpents about his arms, torques or bracelets, his eyes were the eyes of Uther Pendragon. The winds grew cold over the high wind-swept plain where the stone ring awaited the sun rising over the heelstone. Separate video. Yes, definitely. Definitely. We definitely should do a separate video about it. Yes, yes, yes. With the eyes of her living body, Igraine had never seen the Temple of the Sun at Salisbury, for the Druids would not go near it. Who, they demanded, could worship the greater gods behind the gods in a temple built by human hands. And so they held their rights within groves of trees planted by the hands of the gods. So in other words, the Druids that taught Igraine in this life that she's in would not go to those temples because they were man-made, and the Druids believed that the more sacred place was in a grove of trees that the gods built. Okay. But when she was a girl, Vivian had told her of this temple, precisely calculated by arts lost today, so that even those who did not know the secrets of the priests could tell when eclipses were to come. So they left this information for us so that we still could tell when an eclipse was going to come, or when the solstice was happening, or when the equinoxes were happening, based on the stones that they laid out for us. And trace the movements of the stars and seasons. Okay. All right. So I'm not going to read the whole, and as beautiful as it is, I don't want to read the whole thing, but I do hope that you have read it. And if not, there is the PDF and there is the gorgeous audio version of it. The long and short of it is she has this great dream about this civilization, Atlantis, and suddenly comes to realize that her and Uther are actually star-crossed lovers who find each other in each lifetime. So they have, since the dawn of the age, their souls have met and been together. And so she has this great dream of Atlantis, and knows that this was them also, and sees now, like, okay, I mean, how much more can you have in front of you to believe that this was destined, that this was supposed to happen? And so she wakes from this dream. Let's find that. The end of this dream is, look to the east, she said, for always while the light dies in the west, there is a promise of rebirth from the east. And they stood clasped together as the sun blazed, rising behind the eye of the great stone. The man whispered, this is indeed the great cycle of life and death. And even as he spoke, he drew her into him. A day will come when people will forget, and this will be no more than a ring of stones. But I will remember, and I will come back to you, beloved. I swear it. Take care what you pray for you will certainly be given that, which is what he had said to Uther in the Council of Kings, right? So kind of goosebumps, right? You kind of read that and get goosebumps. You have to. If you believe in this stuff, you think, oh, shit, this is destiny. This is surely destiny. And I have to say, as a human being, not in a, fictional book, jealousy. Like, I want a dream that says my husband and I were destined, and right? Like, how cool would it be if we all at some point in our lives got this astro travel thing? Now, there are a lot of people who are able to access their past lives through astro travel. So that is something to work on. If that's something that interests you, that is something to continue to work on, is astro travel. You can look through your Akashic records, which is the record of your soul, spirit, however you want to put it, from the dawn of time until now. And so it shows you your past lives and your future lives, so you kind of know the direction that you're heading. Interesting. Okay. Igraine's acceptance. Okay, so Oh, so wait, she wakes up at and silence, and Igraine found herself naked, wrapped only in her cloak, huddled before the last cold ashes of the fire in her room in their lodging, and Gorlois softly snoring in the bed. Shaking, she wrapped herself tightly in the shawl and crept, chilled to the bone, back to her bed, burrowing for some remnants of warmth. Morgaine. Had she given her child that name because it was it was truly one she had borne? So her name in this past life was Morgan. How interesting that she named her daughter Morgaine. Pretty neat. Was it only a bizarre dream sent by the Merlin to convince her that once she had known Uther Pendragon in some former life? But that had been no dream. Dreams were confused, bizarre, a world where all is foolishness and illusion. She knew that somehow she had wandered into the land of truth, where the soul goes when the body is elsewhere, and somehow she had brought back not a dream, but a memory. So she knows that this is a memory. This is not just a dream. And so finally, her acceptance, right? She finally is on board. And this is why we know that. So she burrowed her body down in the bed, lay, not sleepy now, looking into the darkness, smiling. So Vivian and the Merlin had known, perhaps, what it was fated for her to know. That she was bound to Uther by a bond which made her tie to Gorlois merely superficial and momentary. She would do as they willed. It was part of her destiny. She and the man who now was Uther had bound themselves many lives ago to the fate of this land, where they had come when the old temple was buried. So that she finally just gives in. She says, that's it. And what happens to her from there, I think is super interesting, that she kind of loves Gorlois more. And we'll see in the next chapter, I think that might be it. So I'm not going to say a whole lot, but we'll see that I love the relationship between her and Gorlois. Because I feel like she like accepts him for the role that he has to play in her life. But doesn't, he's not the world that spins for her anymore. And so we'll see that even more. Any questions about this chapter? I do want to, before we leave, I do want to just touch on, in case anybody sees it, because I thought about erasing it, and then I thought, no, I don't want to erase it. The last video that we did, the author, Marion Zimmer Bradley, her daughter, who we had talked about in the very beginning of this, we had talked about her daughter who was traumatized, and we talked about all that. I don't want to bring all of that up again. But I will say that the daughter came on and commented on the last video. And didn't say a whole lot and was not rude or anything, other than she said, I think, Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong. She said something like, I didn't realize that anyone was still reading my mother's book, and I do not approve, or something. It was something very light. And so what I didn't want is for a whole lot of people to, I mean, I know I'm bringing it up now, to come and come to my rescue or say anything to her, because that really is her daughter, and she went through a horrible experience and horrible abuse. Not a fan. There you go. I'm not a fan. That's what she said. But she's a Christian woman now, and so I wouldn't expect her to like anything on my channel. And I just wanted to mention it because I didn't want anyone to see that comment and feel like they had to come running to my rescue. Just because that woman has been through enough, And I'm sure she didn't see the other videos where I talked about why I decided that it was okay to do this book. And we actually talked about the moral implications and the ethics of going through a book when, you know, it turns out that the author was a monster. And we did go through all that, but I'm sure she didn't know that. I don't expect her to go through all my videos because, again, she's a Christian. I just wanted to mention it so that everyone knew that it was out there and didn't feel like they had to go comment or anything, because I just think she's been through enough, and hopefully she never thinks of it again. And if she comments again, I don't know, I might try to reach out to her and just tell her, you know, what I think or something. But for now, just leave it alone. I just felt kind of bad that I was telling my admins I felt like I had to answer her, and then I thought, no, I don't want to do that because I think she's been through too much, and she's not in the place that I'm at spiritually, and so I don't preach to other people. Yes, exactly. It is a difficult situation that I definitely don't want to make worse, because it doesn't really bother me at all. And I think she's been through enough. We certainly don't need to add to her discomfort in this life, for sure. Okay. So having said that, hopefully next week we will be back to Wednesday, which is how I am going to make the event next Wednesday. I assume that unless something weird happens with our move and we're not there yet, or we're not set up yet, or whatever, I'm going to assume that Wednesday will be fine and that everything will go forward next Wednesday as planned. But keep an eye out just in case I change it for some reason. It certainly wasn't planned to be changed. And I think it'll be okay, because it gives us like a week and 2 days or something to get settled wherever we end up. But just to, you know, throw it out there. If you guys could click the like button though on your way out. I love you guys, and I appreciate you all. It's a little confrontation. Exactly, Thomas. Exactly. There's really no need. I just didn't want anybody to feel like you guys are usually great, and I appreciate you, you know, sticking up for me in many, many situations. I just wanted to say that I don't think this is one of them that we need to do that. All right. I love you guys. We will see you next Wednesday at the latest. Hopefully things will be going better, and I can start. I've started to edit videos, and I made my intro video. I don't know if anybody saw it. I can't remember if it's on the channel or not. Did I load it up to the channel? Shit. I don't know. I have to look, because I might have loaded it onto private. I don't know. I'll look though. All right. I love you guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.